Today I have a couple rolls of black and white film that I need to develop, so I need to get my lab set up. If you haven't already watched it, I do have a video I put out on color film development, which requires keeping the chemicals at a precise temperature. One of the nice things about black and white development is it's all done at room temperature, which makes it a lot easier to do at home. I have a roll of HP5 and a roll of Svema 400 film to develop. I buy 100-foot rolls of black and white film and roll it into used canisters. If you want to shoot film for cheap, this is the way. The HP5 leader was still out of the canister, but I had to retrieve the leader from the Svema. If you struggle with the leader retriever, it's just because you're a bad photographer who can't use basic tools. At least that's what my therapist says. But if you really can't get your film out, a surprisingly effective way to retrieve your leader is to use another strip of film with some spit on the emulsion side. You could probably also use water, but that would be gross. This particular roll was not filled all the way. It wasn't a full roll, so it was a little harder to get it to stick.
It really doesn't feel like must not have been much in there. I'm just feeling a little bit of resistance. Let me turn it. There it is. Let's see.
The Svema film is interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Svema is a film out of the Ukraine. I got a 100-foot roll of it to try out. It says that it's 400 ISO, but it shoots much more like 100 ISO. And the film is super thin. Like, compare this to HP5. It's probably a super cost-effective option in Europe, but here in the States it costs pretty much the same as Kentmere, which is a much higher quality budget option, in my opinion. I cut the leader into a point. This makes it easier to get it onto the spool. Make sure not to cut through a sprocket hole or it will get caught as you're feeding it onto the spool. All right, I have everything to load the film in the tank, and I'm ready to go. And here's what I'm doing in my dark closet when I'm loading the film into the tank. I'll use this dummy roll of film to show you. If you're really good and stick around to the end of the video, I might even show you how to make your own dummy roll of film. Spools have these indicators you can feel for that tell you where the film goes.
All right, so what I'm doing, I'm not looking down as I do this. I'm going to show you what it looks like in the dark for me. I'm just going to be doing this completely blind, but here's so you can see what my hands are doing. I'm feeling for these notches here because that's where the film goes in. So then I got that. I really hope my hands are framed up because I'm not looking at the camera. All right, so So what I'm doing, let's see if I can try to get this tilted so that you can see it. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to feed it in. This is actually harder trying to film it too, because I know it's the direction I want to orient my hands. Doesn't fit for this, but you can see I'm feeling for these, and then it slides it in there. And once I get it in there just a little bit like this, I can kind of hold on to it. I can get my thumb on it and hold it there. And I can bring it down. All right, now I'm looking at it again just because this is the easy part. Once it's on there, this is where it starts feeding on really easy. So now you just let it feed on. And I'll keep rolling that down to give it some slack. And this is what you do. You just feed it onto the reel. Now it can get stuck along the way. You might have to redo it. One thing to keep in mind with these is you can twist these. I'll show it after. You can twist these to completely undo it. It's pretty easy to remember. But you get to the end, right? So you're still, again, remember, in the dark. Get to the end, and then there's no more of that. You cut it, and you're gonna want to give yourself a little bit of space there. Cut it. Get it all the way on the reel. Give it a little bit of space between the, if you can. Some rolls are so long, it's almost hanging over. But you get as much as you can, space you can between that and the wall. Then you go back in here, open this up. You got your, you don't want to forget this. I have done that before. Oh, timer, son. Stop timer. There you go.
Okay, so I've got my developer, my fixer, my mixing glassware, my funnel, my vortex mixer, and I'll get into that. Time for the first rinse. Film manufacturers will put dye on their films. Dye on a color film will work as a filter to adjust the sensitivity of the film, typically toward a certain color. Most black and white films, in my experience, have little to no dye on them. That is not the case with Svema 400. Another thing that makes black and white development easier is that Rodinal, the developer I'm using today, is shelf stable pretty much forever. If you're not doing black and white development often, this is the developer you want. People have apparently used 100-year-old Rodinal and it worked perfectly, like as if it was brand new. The other thing you'll need is black and white fixer. The developer sets the silver in the film that was exposed to light, and the fixer is what washes away the silver that was unexposed. Color films are manufactured to be developed using the same process, the C41 process.
Set timer for 11 minutes.
Black and white film predates that system, and this is the major downside to black and white development. You can go to the massive dev chart and look up the film you are developing and the developer you're using. It will tell you how much to dilute your developer and how long to develop it. Generally speaking, the weaker your dilution, the longer you will develop, but the more detail that will come out of it. For this, I'm just going with the HP5 time because that's the more important role to me. The Svema is a low priority role. Typically though, if I'm developing two different kinds of black and white film in the same tank, I'll go with the longer development time or split the difference between the two. How precise you get with this is completely up to you. And standard procedure is to agitate your chemistry once every minute for black and white film. You can do this manually, but personally, I have a vortex mixer with an outlet timer, and I call this the jiggling tank method. Unlike color development chemistry that you reuse, black and white developers typically single use. I give it several thorough rinses before adding fixer. Fixer, for the record, is not single use, and you never put it down the drain. Standard procedure for black and white fixing is 5 minutes. Again, agitating once per minute.
Actually pretty close. Stop timer.
Now, you just rinse the film completely clean. At this point, the film is safe to expose to light. You might be able to see some negatives. Now I'll add a little wetting agent and I'll fill with water. This creates a soapy solution that dries on the film without leaving water spots. I hang the film up to dry with a fan on, and the film will be ready to scan in a couple hours. Speaking of which, I do have a video in the works on how to scan your film, so be sure to watch for that. Subscribe or whatever. The bells, hit the bells. These are a couple half-frame rolls I shot with a pretty cheap camera. Basically the lens of a disposable camera. But with some work, you can get them looking pretty nice. As your treat for sticking around to the end, you get to learn how to make a dummy roll of film. So I have a roll of film that is either already developed or exposed and I don't care about. I'm going to take a canister that has a little bit of film sticking out of the end. I have used strong bond Scotch tape in the past with really good results. I recently got this special tape from, I don't know, B&H Photo or something like that that's meant for this, so I'm giving that a try. I tape the film to both sides and I feed it into the canister. Roll the film back into the canister. And you cut the leader into the standard shape cameras take. So there you go. That's how you make a dummy roll of film that you can use to practice with. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found this video useful. If so, leave it a comment, leave it a like, whatever. Until next time.